Some acid, some sweetness, and some richness.
This is what you eat, but this is where it grows.
Have a sniff of that.
That's a beautiful piece of beef. Nicely aged, bit of fat on there.
We're making booze and we're having a hell of a good time.
I sit between a grower and a chef.
Is this a food? Is it a medicine?
It's like discovering colour TV after years of watching black and white.
Hello, I'm Pip Courtney and welcome to another edition of A Taste of Landline, where we'll be looking at a new super plum.
We have a very simple way of adding something to diet that is incredibly palatable, that would, over the long term, decrease all the problems with obesity.
They taste good.
And a spectacular underwater world.
It's a whole different world underground. It's the closest thing you can get to outer space.
Surprisingly, in many country centres, it's hard getting a taste of local produce. That's why some communities are starting their own farmers' markets. Sean Murphy reports.
Hello there. Hello, you beautiful kids. How are you? Hello, Christmas.
After a mixed career as a naturopath, academic and businesswoman, Penny Scott is now developing a paddock pork eco-farm with an emphasis on ethical, sustainable production.
Good girl.
And why pigs? What is it that, attracts you to them?
I shouldn't say flavour first, but that is something important. Well, no, I love pigs. It comes back to I love pigs.
Sit. Good boy. You are a beautifully patient pig.
Penny Scott is determined to prove that small enterprises can be profitable in what she calls the creative food economy.
You remember your beautiful manners? Go back, please. Go back, please. Good boys, good girls.
So the ultimate aim is to have 6 sows, doing 1.5 litres a year, and we sell the meat at $25 a kilo. And people do not even bat an eyelid at paying that. When they understand that the animals are fed twice a day, they're looked after really well, they've got happy lives, people want that. But we don't have enough suppliers yet. The focus of Eat Local Thursday is to enable farmers to become prosperous. And we have it weekly so that they have regular trading opportunities, which is more reliable cash flow. And for any business to be successful, you need regular cash flow.
There we go, $14 altogether, thank you.
Wayne and Mendy Skeins sell more than 60% of their fruit at markets like Eat Local Thursday. If they just relied on selling to Australia's major supermarkets, most of their produce would be rejected.
It hasn't got to be perfect. It's just got to taste good. And that's what we try to do. We try to grow our fruit for the farmers' markets, what the consumer wants. And we've been doing it now for quite a few years, so we know what they want and we know how ripe the fruit must be for them to enjoy it.
The Skeins own a 30-hectare orchard at Batlow, growing mostly apples and some stone fruit. About 18 months ago, the Skeins started juicing the apples they didn't sell at the markets. Their cold-pressed juices are now their biggest money earner.
We just wanted another outlet of our wastage because we were throwing a lot of apples out that we couldn't sell at the markets, and we wanted to do something else with it. The apple juice that we would supply to other juice makers, you would get juice back that you could, leave on the shelf for about 12 months. Also, that I wasn't very happy with. I wanted something a bit more fresh, a bit more healthy, and that's how we started to do the cold press.
The juices wouldn't be sold in supermarkets because they're unpasteurised and have a limited shelf life.
People don't seem to mind. I tell everyone honestly that it needs to be in the fridge, you need to drink it really quickly. A lot of people don't seem to have a problem with that.
The apple and ginger juice.
Thank you.
Wow, that is the best juice I've ever had.
Thank you.
That is beautiful. I think I'll buy some.
The Skeins say it's not just about the juice or the fruit they sell. What keeps many customers coming back is a sense of connection.
They like to know where you're from and what you're doing, and they like the aspect of knowing where their food comes from and know what you do.
Hi, how are you? $4.50, thank you.
And that extends beyond the apple shed. Their customers are intrigued about how the couple met.
Travelling around Australia as a backpacker from the Netherlands, and she came to Batlow for a couple of weeks to work just to earn a bit of extra money. And she started working for me, and before we knew it, we were in love and married and started a family.
So lamb sausages, these ones have some rosemary and garlic chive in them. And we put all the meat from a whole lamb into the sausages, so not just sort of the leftover bits, so that's why they're quite meaty.
David Bray and Louise Freckleton also give the added value of a personal story to their prime lamb cuts and sausages. They reckon a healthy environment is key to a healthy bottom line.
Well, I bring them along because it's quite amazing. You can see in your bird's nest your whole property. There's a little bit of the wool from our sheep.
Yeah, people who turn up every week and ask for sausages or ask for their favourite cut and stop for a chat. And that's been fantastic as well. It's been a great way to meet the community and talk to people about food and our production systems and our conservation area.
In its first 12 months, the Eat Local Thursday market turned over more than $1 million.
That's gone back into about 10 or 11 smaller rural communities around the Riverina and just into Victoria. So that's what it's about. Those smaller economies are having the vibrancy of the flow-on effects of the money that the traders here take home and then spend in their local community.
We hear a lot about superfoods, but a variety of plum might be just that. I went to Queensland's Granite Belt to find out.
This is Trap Rock country in southern Queensland. Just shy of the New South Wales border, the region's perfect for running fine wool sheep. Fifth generation wool grower Bim Goodrich is known as one of the Trap Rock's best woolmen. In 2010, Bim Goodrich invested millions in stone fruit. But not any stone fruit. He planted 75,000 trees of a new plum variety called Queen Garnet. They don't just taste good. Tests on rats have given researchers hope the plum could be a low-cost and tasty weapon in the fight against one of the world's biggest health problems, obesity.
What it could mean is that we have a very simple way of intervening in the diet, of adding something to the diet that is incredibly palatable, that would, over the long term, decrease all the problems with obesity.
Bim's betting the QG, as the super plum is known, will be so sought after he'll never be a price taker again.
It's a health product, so it can go into the health market, but on top of that it tastes fantastic.
Waroo is the only commercial QG orchard in the world. The Queensland Government, which bred the plum, sold the global rights to grow and commercialise QG to a company called Nutrafruit, owned by Bim and 5 friends. So what makes the plum special enough to get a syndicate of 6 to commit millions on an untried fruit? Well, it's all down to its impressive anthocyanin levels, which are 5 times higher than ordinary plums.
Anthocyanins are natural products within many foods, within many plants. They're the classic purple colour.
It's thought that they help reduce inflammation, help improve the structure and the function of our gastrointestinal system.
Fruits high in anthocyanin are usually extremely sour, but the QG plum tastes great and is much cheaper than blueberries, which are the best tasting, readily available high anthocyanin fruit. The market for antioxidant-rich fruit and vegetables, also known as functional foods or nutraceuticals, is enormous.
It's growing at something like, at the moment, 20% compound per annum. How big is it? It's tens of billions of dollars globally.
And what's attracted the fruit's investors is in this market, consumers tend not to quibble over price.
I think that people who are interested in food as a health product rather than just a fuel are prepared to pay a premium for products that provide them those benefits.
I've been around the industry for a few too many years now, and a lot of things have come and gone, but I think this is the one with the most potential that I've seen.
When Rowan Berracree retired after a long career in stone fruit, he vowed never to go near an orchard again. But Bim's belief in the plum and the huge market for high antioxidant foods lured Rowan out of retirement to run the Goodrich's family orchard.
We're not relying on a fresh fruit market. We've got a health product here. It's a new ball game. That's good.
The Queen Garnet, which was traditionally bred, is actually a happy accident, as scientists were chasing other characteristics when they created it.
They just got a freakish aligning of the genes with this. They found this plum with really dark internal qualities, so they had a closer look at what that plum contained and came up with this really high anthocyanin level.
It's being sold as a high antioxidant plum. But what customers don't realise is researchers are seeing extraordinary health benefits when they feed the juice to obese rats.
So all those things that happen to humans when they're obese happen to these rats as well. Their blood pressure goes up, their heart function goes down, their liver function goes down, the liver's damaged, it's got fat in it. When we put the purple plum juice, the extra purple plum juice in their food, it all comes back to normal without changing their diet. Is this a food? Is it a medicine? What is it? It's wonderful. It's functional food.
We've just got to prove it in humans as well. The general feeling is if it works in rats, we're a pretty good chance of pulling it off in humans. We might save the world, yeah.
Australia can boast an impressive list of world-class inventions. Tim Lee reports on one innovation which changed the way the world harvested wheat.
Under a blazing sun, in an open wheat field, almost 2,000 intrepid souls watched the past vividly come alive.
Whoa, whoa.
The Vintage Harvest Day showcased the evolution of more than a century of grain-growing machinery, all demonstrated in a day-long dusty cavalcade. It realised a long-held ambition for grain grower and vintage machinery enthusiast Kerry Peach, who was also keen to honour the district's most famous son, the inventor Hedley Taylor.
When I dreamt about it one night, 12 o'clock, you wouldn't believe this, about 12 o'clock one night, I woke up and I dreamt about having a harvest day. I've got all these headers sitting in the shed. Nobody's ever going to see them, and I'd love to have them, get them out and have them working.
So nearby Henty, renowned for its annual farm machinery field days, staged a celebratory weekend to commemorate the centenary of the header harvester, an innovation that changed the course of world agriculture. Here at the Henty Agricultural Show in 1914, local farmers gazed with wonder at a machine just like this. It was a grain harvester that snipped the heads from ripened crops, unlike the existing stripper harvester that tended to pull the heads from the stalks. Naturally, the new machine was dubbed the header harvester.
So Bruce, can you explain what the difference is between a stripper and a header?
Right, basically it's in the front. The header, the front goes levelly down and up, so it can take in short crops, tall crops, or crops that are knocked down by storms. The main difference is it has a cutter bar on it, which is this arrangement here, and the cutter bar cuts the heads off and takes them into the header through those spirals, whereas a stripper beats them off and then they lose a bit of the grain
This is the very problem that confronted Hedley Taylor and to which he sent his mind to solving. At that time, no conventional machinery could lift and harvest fallen or flattened grain. And for the farmer, that meant considerable financial loss.
There were storms going through, as they always do every harvest time, and anything that got flattened virtually became a write-off, a loss. You couldn't get any insurance on it or anything. And Hedley was well aware of this, and he convinced himself that it must be possible to make a machine that can get those tangled crops off.
And so he set about himself, with no financial backing, with no education, in a little blacksmith shop, to build a machine out of junk metal and to try and make it better, which is pretty incredible, age of 30.
So Milton, this is where it
this is where it all took place, yeah.
Hedley Taylor.
Yeah, between that and the anvil in particular and the drilling machine, and then he had a lathe which we've been able to secure.
Retired grain grower Milton Taylor has always been fascinated by the story. He was the driving force behind relocating and preserving Hedley Taylor's old blacksmith shop, now a tourist attraction in Henty.
He left school when he was 14 years old. He had very little education, and he taught himself out of books on engineering. Anything that he thought was of use to him, he'd buy it, study it up, and then apply it here. And he built these. He built the original machine. The first one he built wasn't a success. That was in 1911. He got it out into the paddock into a crop, and it just didn't work. So he took it back to the workshop, had a break for 3 weeks, stripped the whole thing down to the axles and the wheels and started again.
For the Taylor family in recent years, the Henty Show Weekend has become an annual extended family pilgrimage. Hedley Taylor's youngest son, 87-year-old John, recalls his inventive father, often deep in thought.
I can vouch for him thinking in front of the fire and sort of making rough notes in diagrams.
And his dogged determination, expressed in his Latin motto, to never give up. By 1920, mass-produced headers rolled out of the Sunshine factory at the rate of 1,000 a year, many to countries such as Argentina.
They worked the factory down in Sunshine 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they put 1,000 machines out that year. They went up north.
Hedley Taylor's header revolutionised grain growing. It brought prosperity to farms, helped expand the wheat belt, and brought wealth to many nations. Farmers could now sow and reap far bigger acreages with far less labour. Taylor's ingenuity provided an enduring blueprint for the giant harvesters that would eventually follow.
In parts of southern Australia, an extraordinary world lies beneath ordinary farming country. Here's Kerry State.
What grows out of this ground keeps Graham Kilsby's farm south of Mount Gambier running. But as the third-generation lamb producer focuses on turning this paddock into productive pasture, a convoy of visitors arrives.
Well, as a farmer, we're obviously more focused on above the ground and what we can actually make from the land. But now we're finding that there's a lot more interest from different groups about what's under the ground.
The sounds and sight of divers gearing up in the middle of a paddock may seem out of place, but this is a routine that's become second nature to senior instructors Gary Barclay and Linda Claridge. Although for the latter it wasn't a natural fit when she started 25 years ago.
No, it terrified me from day one. Cave diving didn't come easily to me. I did the first course and thought that was as far as I wanted to go. It took me some time to become relaxed in the caves, but once I did, the enjoyment and the love for it just continued to grow.
Got your fins down there?
Yep.
Yep, no worries, we should be ready to go.
Right now, we're going to stagger down there.
Also in the group today, Victorian farmers and long-time dive buddies Kelvin Ball and Stephen Meyer. They may be more familiar with what's going on at the surface than the others, but when the tanks are on, it's their time out.
You get up in the morning, you're on the farm, you go to bed, you're on the farm, and just gets me away. Nobody can get you on the phone or anything, it's great. It's a whole different world underground. It's the closest thing you can get to outer space.
This 65-metre deep sinkhole is renowned for its crystal clear water and the rays of light that pierce through it on a sunny day.
A couple of 100 metres back into the cave, and a depth of 40 to 50 metres, you can look up and still see the clouds. So that clarity of the water is amazing.
The huge and dramatic cavity make it one of the most popular dive sites in the southeast.
Some amazing big ones, like massive amphitheatres that you get into, and it's like you're floating in the middle of the sky almost. It's just that you're the only one there, and there's walls way off in the distances either side. Yeah, and it's real thrilling to see that, yes.
Surprisingly, it's a site owner Graham Kilsby is yet to explore, even though he's grown up with it in his backyard.
One day I will. I don't know. I suppose it's a little bit like that thing that if something's in your backyard, you don't actually use it. I do a lot of sea diving. Somebody asked me, a diver, why haven't you been in here? I just sort of say, well, if there's not a crayfish in here, why would you bother?
It may not be a fishing hotspot, but Kilsby's sinkhole has seen plenty of action. Police and Navy divers use it for training. And back in the 70s, the Defence Department leased the site for weapons testing.
They were actually punching sonar buoys under compressed air into the water. So rather than dropping them out of a plane at a very high altitude, they were actually punching these sonar buoys into the water.
He may not have explored what's under his property, but Graham Kilsby does use it to make the most of what's on top. The father of two runs a prime lamb operation with more than 2,000 breeding ewes, so good feed is a recipe for success. While this is pretty decent farming country anyway, with a high rainfall, when things do dry up, Graham Kilsby pumps water out of the sinkhole to irrigate his pasture.
It just means that I can finish off my lambs instead of actually selling them when they're either not ready or the market price is low because of a glut of lambs. So, yeah, it's just meant that I can farm a little bit differently.
Diver Kevin Ball crops cereals and pulses at Pimpanayo in Victoria, 3 hours drive from Graham Kilsby's place. He's farmed this country since picking up the reins of the family business in his 20s when his father died. And understanding what happens on farms certainly helps when it comes to getting permission from other landholders to access what's under theirs.
I get along well with them. We've supplied grain and all that stuff with them, so sort of makes it easier when you want to do something a little different in there to be able to talk on their level.
He may not have a hidden asset on his place, but he says it's generally pretty productive land. However, you wouldn't know it at the start of this season, when the underwater world he escapes to was looking a lot more attractive than what was facing him at ground level.
Very dry so far, as you can see. It's hoping for some rain next week, but at this stage it's very dry, and yeah, we've just got to wait and see. Put some seed in the ground and hope it comes.
All good.
Right.
The weather may make or break his year on the surface, but one of the good things about his hobby is it doesn't matter if it's wet or dry. The tricky part sometimes is just getting in. This portal into the underwater world is so small, equipment has to be lowered separately. But the humble entrance, hidden among cows on a dairy farm not far from Graham Kilsby's place, is very deceiving.
You got me? Yep. See you later. Hello? Diver?
We've had people that have dived all around the world too have come to here and they just couldn't believe the size of the room that we've got under our feet here. In the middle of a cow pack, in the middle of nowhere. Other places they go, they're in the side of mountains and stuff like this, but this is a perfectly flat land pretty well around here. And you can't see water on the top of it anywhere, but there's a lot under it.
This is the shaft. It's the darkest and deepest recorded sinkhole in the region, dropping more than 120 metres. It was discovered by the owner's grandfather when he was ploughing a paddock and the horse put its foot through the surface. This pile of rubble 35 metres down was the family's unsuccessful attempt to fill it.
Yeah, we tipped the stones down it and we really didn't have a clue how big it was underneath, and we had no hope of filling it up. It looks like an anthill down there, and we've tipped 1,000 tonnes of stones down there.
Trevor Ashby is a third-generation dairy farmer, milking 350 Holsteins.
To the divers, it's world class. To anybody sitting on top, it's just a hole in the ground with a lot of water underneath. It's not my cup of tea. But when they come up and you see the smile on their face and how happy they are after they've been down there, I guess that's the main thing. They're happy doing the sport they love.
Next Friday on A Taste of Landline, we take a look at the health properties of Manuka honey.
Today, it's the most sought-after product that we can produce.
And revisit one of our all-time favourite characters.
How many fingers have you got and how many toes?
I got 9 toes and I got 10 fingers. I chopped one off with a pinch bar one time. Went straight through the top of my boot, my brand new boots. I thought, oh my God, what a stupid thing to do now. I've ruined a pair of new boots.